The wandering spirit drifted through space like a leaf on water. Inside the small survey ship, Captain Maria Santos sipped her coffee and watched the stars pass by on the main screen. Her crew of 12 moved about their duties with practiced ease. They had been mapping this sector for 3 months now, cataloging mineral deposits and checking for navigation hazards. Nobody noticed when they crossed the invisible line. The border of the Zeltharian Empire stretched across 47 star systems, marked only by sensor buoys that humans had never learned to recognize. When the wandering spirit passed the third buoy, alarms screamed across Imperial space. Within minutes, 3 massive warships appeared from nowhere, surrounding the small human vessel. Commander Zethral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Retribution. His crystalline body caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns across the walls. He was 8 feet tall, angular and sharp, with a voice that could make lesser beings tremble. He had done this 1,000 times before. New species wandered into Imperial space, saw the might of the Zeltharian fleet, and immediately begged for mercy. He opened a channel to the human ship and prepared his usual speech. Unknown vessel. You have violated the sacred borders of the Zeltharian Empire. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction. There was a pause. Then a human face appeared on his screen. She had dark hair pulled back in a simple tie, and she was holding a cup with steam rising from it. She looked tired. "Oh, hey there," Captain Santos said. "Sorry about that. Our navigation system must have glitched. We'll just turn around and head back the way we came." Zethral blinked. This was not the usual response. "You do not understand," he said, making his voice deeper and more threatening. "You have entered Imperial space. You cannot simply leave. You must face judgment." Santos frowned and looked at someone off-screen. "Did we hit anything? Damage any property?" A voice called back. "Negative, Captain. We just crossed some kind of border marker." She looked back at Zethral. "Look, we're really sorry. We're just doing a mineral survey. We didn't know anyone claimed this area. If you could just point us to the border coordinates, we'll update our maps and go around." Zethral felt his confidence waver. The human seemed more annoyed than afraid, like he was an inconvenience rather than a deadly threat. "You will not go around," he said firmly. "You will accompany us to the nearest Imperial station for processing." "This is not negotiable." Santos sighed and set down her coffee. "Fine, but can we make it quick? We're on a schedule." The commander ended the transmission and stood in silence. His second officer, Veltrim, approached cautiously. "Sir, should we disable their weapons?" "Scan them first," Zethral ordered. The scan results came back quickly. The human ship had basic shields outdated by Imperial standards. Their weapons were simple kinetic railguns and a handful of missiles. Nothing impressive. Nothing that could threaten even the smallest Imperial vessel. "They're harmless," Veltrim reported. "Perhaps they're simply ignorant of our power." "Perhaps," Zethral said, but he felt uncertain. The journey to Imperial Station Kovath 9 took 6 hours. During that time, Zethral expected the humans to panic, to beg, to try to escape. Instead, Captain Santos requested permission to continue her survey scans of nearby asteroids. When he refused, she asked if they had any good restaurants at the station. At Kovath 9, Station Commander Prelnak waited with a full honor guard. The station was a marvel of Imperial engineering, a massive ring structure that could house 1,000,000 beings. Its weapons could destroy a fleet. Its shields could withstand a supernova. Surely the humans would be impressed. Captain Santos and 3 of her crew stepped off their ship and looked around. One of them, a woman with Rodriguez printed on her uniform, whistled softly. "Nice station," she said. "We use rotating sections for gravity too, though we went with a cylinder design instead of a ring. Different engineering philosophy." Prelnak's crystal face somehow conveyed confusion. You have stations like this?" "Oh, not this big," Rodriguez admitted cheerfully. "Ours are smaller, more distributed. We figure it's safer not to put all our eggs in one basket, you know?" The station commander looked at Zethral, who could only gesture helplessly. They took the humans to the grand observation deck. From there, they could see the entire Kovath system, 3 planets all under Imperial control. Massive shipyards orbited the second planet, producing warships at a steady rate. Cargo vessels moved in carefully controlled patterns. It was a display of absolute control and overwhelming might. "Wow," said the third human, whose name tag read Chen. He pulled out a small device and started taking pictures. The traffic control here must be intense. How do you coordinate all this? With the blessing of the Empire and our superior technology, Prelnak said proudly. Our gravitational manipulation allows us to move vessels with precision you cannot imagine. Oh, we use gravity assist too, Chen said, still taking pictures. Though mostly for fuel efficiency on long hauls. We combine it with quantum entanglement for communication. Helps with the coordination. Prelnak felt his certainty crumbling. These humans spoke of advanced concepts as casually as discussing the weather. Captain Santos finally seemed to pay attention to the station commander. So what exactly is this processing you mentioned? Do we need to fill out some forms? Pay a fine for crossing your border? It is not so simple, Prelnak said, trying to regain his composure. You must understand the severity of your transgression. The Zeltharian Empire has stood for 10,000 years. Our territory is sacred. Those who enter without permission must acknowledge our supremacy and accept our authority. Santos raised an eyebrow. Or what? Or face the consequences of defying the greatest civilization in the galaxy. The captain was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled politely. Look, we don't want any trouble. We're explorers, not warriors. We just want to do our job and go home. Can't we just agree to respect each other's space and leave it at that? The Empire does not make agreements with lesser species, Prelnak said automatically. We accept only submission or conquest, Rodriguez laughed. Well, that seems like a limited worldview. What if we're not interested in either option? Then you are fools, Zethral said, stepping forward. You have seen only the smallest fraction of our power. We control 47 star systems. We command fleets that could darken your skies. We have weapons that crack planets. And you stand here unafraid as if you have any choice in your fate. Santos looked at him thoughtfully. Commander, in our history we've had lots of empires. Big ones, small ones, nice ones, terrible ones. They all thought they'd last forever. Most of them are gone now. The ones that survived learned to adapt. She gestured around the station. This is impressive, really. But impressive doesn't mean we have to kneel. The silence that followed was profound. No species had ever spoken to the Zeltharians this way. Zethral felt something he had not experienced in decades of service. Uncertainty. Take them to quarters, he finally said. Comfortable ones. We will contact the Emperor for guidance. As the humans were led away, Zethral heard Rodriguez say to Chen, Think they have a gift shop? I want to get my kid one of those crystal things. Zethral stood on the observation deck long after they left, staring at the small human survey ship docked beside his mighty warship. Something was very wrong. These humans should have been terrified. Instead, they acted like tourists who had taken a wrong turn. He needed to understand why. And something told him he would not like the answer. The message reached Emperor Vornthal on his throne world of Zelthar Prime 3 days later. He read it twice, certain there must be an error in translation. They refused to kneel? Yes, Divine Emperor, his first advisor Ketnara confirmed. The humans showed no fear. They treated the encounter as a minor inconvenience. Vornthal had ruled for 400 years. He had seen 1,000 species bow before him. The ceremony was always the same. He would appear in his full glory, display the might of the Empire, and watch as the newcomers realized how small they were in comparison. Some wept, some begged. Some simply stood in awed silence. But all of them submitted. Bring them here, he commanded. We will show them proper respect for the Empire. The journey to Zelthar Prime took 2 weeks. The wandering spirit was escorted by an entire battle group, 20 warships that could each destroy a civilization. Commander Zethral expected this show of force to finally break through the humans' strange calm. Instead, Captain Santos asked if they could stop at one of the systems along the way to study an unusual nebula formation. Absolutely not, Zethral said. Worth a shot, Santos replied with a shrug. When Zelthar Prime came into view, even the humans seemed to pay attention. The planet was a work of art, its entire surface covered in crystal spires that caught the light of its binary suns. The structures were not just buildings, but living extensions of Zeltharian biology. The whole planet pulsed with a soft musical hum that could be heard even in space. Okay, that's actually pretty cool, Rodriguez admitted, pressing her face against the viewport. They landed at the Grand Plaza, a space so vast that weather patterns formed under its domed ceiling. 10,000 beings from subject species lined the walkway, all bowing as the humans passed. Representatives from 100 worlds waited to witness this moment. Santos and her crew walked down the crystal pathway, looking around with interest. Chen took more pictures. Rodriguez pointed out architectural features to the ship's doctor, who nodded and made notes on a datapad. Not one of them bowed. The whispers started immediately. The subject species looked at each other in confusion and worry. Some looked at the humans with what might have been hope. Emperor Vornthal sat on the eternal throne, a massive structure of pure crystalline energy that floated above the ground. He was 12 feet tall, ancient and powerful, his body containing more knowledge and power than most species possessed in their entire civilization. When he spoke, his voice resonated through every crystal in the room, making the very air vibrate. "Humans of Earth," he began, using the formal greeting that had been refined over millennia. "You stand in the presence of the Zeltharian Empire, oldest and greatest civilization in this galaxy. For 10,000 years we have brought order to chaos, peace to conflict, and purpose to the void. Countless species have joined us, finding prosperity under our guidance and protection." He paused, letting his words sink in. The chamber was absolutely silent except for the harmonic hum of the crystals. "You have entered our space without permission. You have shown disrespect to our commanders. You have failed to demonstrate proper reverence for our authority. These are serious transgressions." Captain Santos waited. When the Emperor said nothing more, she spoke up. "So what happens now?" Vornthal continued as if she had not interrupted. "However, the Empire is merciful. We offer you a choice. Acknowledge our supremacy. Join the Empire as a subject species and know peace and prosperity. Your people will be protected, guided, and elevated beyond your current primitive state. And if we refuse?" Santos asked. "Then you will face the alternative," Vornthal said darkly. "Isolation. Economic sanctions. And if you prove hostile, military correction." Rodriguez leaned over to Santos and whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Is this guy serious?" The entire chamber seemed to hold its breath. No one spoke to the Emperor this way. Santos looked up at Vornthal. "Your Majesty, we appreciate the offer. Really. But we're not interested in joining your empire. We have our own government, our own way of doing things. We'd be happy to establish diplomatic relations, maybe trade agreements, but we're not going to submit to anyone." "You do not understand what you refuse," Vornthal said. Behold. The walls of the chamber became transparent. Outside, the sky filled with warships, thousands of them, ranging from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying a city. Together they could sterilize a planet in hours. "This is but a fraction of our military might," Vornthal declared. "We have weapons that can shatter worlds, technology that can stop time itself, the power to reshape reality according to our will." The humans watched the display. Chen kept taking pictures. Rodriguez pulled out her datapad and started making calculations. Santos just nodded slowly. "That's a lot of firepower," she admitted. "Must be expensive to maintain." Vornthal felt a crack in his composure. "You see this and still refuse to acknowledge our superiority?" "Oh, it's definitely superior to what we have," Santos said honestly. "We can't do anything like this. Our ships are smaller, our weapons less powerful. If it came to a fight, we'd lose badly." For a moment, Vornthal felt satisfaction. Finally, the human understood. "But we're still not joining," Santos continued. "See, we've learned something over the years. Being the biggest and strongest doesn't make you right. And giving up our freedom because someone threatens us, that's not really our style." "Your style will get you killed," Ketnara interjected sharply. Santos turned to the advisor. "Maybe. But we'd rather die free than live on our knees. It's kind of our thing." Rodriguez spoke up. "No offense, but this whole submission thing seems exhausting for you guys. Don't you get tired of making everyone bow and scrape? Seems like it would be easier to just have normal diplomatic relationships." "The Empire does not tire," Ketnara said coldly. "We have perfected the art of governance. All species find happiness under our guidance." "All the species that are still here, you mean?" Chen said quietly, still looking at his datapad. "I've been reading your historical records while we waited. 23 species have gone extinct while under Imperial protection. 14 others vanished from your databases with no explanation. The silence that followed was different, uncomfortable. Those species failed to adapt," Vornthal said. "They could not accept the gift we offered, or they couldn't accept losing who they were," Santos said softly. "Look, we're not trying to insult you. Your civilization is amazing. You've accomplished incredible things, but so have we in our own way. We'd like to stay friends, or at least neighbors. But we can't be your subjects. Vornthal rose from his throne. The movement made the entire chamber shake. You are either part of the Empire or you are against it. There is no middle ground. Choose now. Santos met his gaze without flinching. Then I guess we're against it. The Emperor stared at her. This small creature, barely 5.5 feet tall, standing in a chamber designed to make beings feel insignificant, refusing the greatest offer any species could receive. You doom your species, he said. We'll take our chances, Santos replied. Vornthal wanted to crush her, wanted to make an example that would echo through the galaxy for generations. But something stopped him. A small voice of doubt that whispered uncomfortable questions. Why were they not afraid? What did they know that he did not? Take them back to their ship, he commanded. We will discuss their fate. As the humans left, Santos turned back at the doorway. For what it's worth, Your Majesty, this planet really is beautiful. You should be proud of what you've built. Then they were gone, leaving Vornthal standing before his throne, surrounded by thousands of subjects, feeling more uncertain than he had in centuries. What do we do? Ketnara asked quietly. We learn, Vornthal said. Find out everything about these humans. I want to know why they refuse to fear us. In the corridor, Rodriguez looked at Santos. Think that went well? Could have been worse, Santos said. At least nobody shot at us. Yet, Chen added. Yet, Santos agreed. Intelligence Chief Merkatha had served the Empire for 200 years. She had analyzed thousands of species, predicted their behaviors, and helped plan their integration into imperial society. She was very good at her job, but the humans made no sense. She stood in the intelligence complex deep beneath Zelthar Prime's surface, surrounded by screens showing data from every available source. Her team of 50 analysts worked frantically to understand these strange beings who had refused the Emperor. What have we learned? She asked her senior analyst. They call their home world Earth, the analyst reported. It's located in what they call the Orion Arm, approximately 26,000 light-years from the galactic center. Single star system, third planet from their sun. They have not colonized any other systems yet, though they have outposts on several moons and asteroids. Merkatha nodded. So they are primitives, as we thought. Limited space travel. No significant military power. This confirms they are simply too ignorant to understand their position. That's what we thought at first, the analyst said nervously. But Chief, you need to see their history. The main screen filled with images. Merkatha watched as the story of humanity unfolded. They were a young species, barely 10,000 years of civilization. They had spent most of that time fighting each other. Wars, thousands of them, ranging from small conflicts to massive global catastrophes. They had invented weapons of incredible cruelty and used them on themselves without hesitation. This is normal for primitive species, Merkatha said. They lack the wisdom to avoid conflict. Keep watching, the analyst urged. The images shifted to something called World War II. Merkatha watched in growing horror as humans slaughtered each other by the millions. Entire cities burned. Civilians were targeted deliberately, the casualties numbered in the tens of millions. By the eternal light, Merkatha whispered. They are monsters. It gets worse, the analyst said. The screen showed a new weapon, a bomb that split atoms and released energy that could destroy entire cities in seconds. The humans had built these weapons and used them. Twice. They destroyed themselves? Merkatha asked. No. They stopped. Barely. They came to the edge of extinction and pulled back. The analyst brought up more data. They built thousands more of these weapons, enough to destroy their planet dozens of times over. They aimed them at each other for decades, but they never used them again. Merkatha tried to process this. Why not? We don't know. Fear, maybe, or wisdom. They created something called mutually assured destruction. If one side attacked, everyone would die, so nobody attacked. That's insane, Merkatha said. They held themselves hostage? And it worked. They started talking instead of fighting, made agreements, reduced their weapons. They still have conflicts, but nothing like before. Merkatha sat down slowly. What kind of species threatens itself with annihilation and then chooses to cooperate? One that understands extinction, another analyst offered. We found something else. Their entertainment media. The screen filled with images from human fiction, movies, books, games. Marakatha watched story after story of humans fighting impossible odds, fighting aliens who wanted to exterminate them, fighting artificial intelligences that wanted to enslave them, fighting their own governments, their own planets, reality itself. They create stories about their own destruction? Marakatha asked, bewildered. For fun, the analyst confirmed. And look at the endings. In almost every story, the humans win, not because they're stronger or smarter, but because they refuse to give up. They call it the human spirit. More data scrolled across the screen. Marakatha read quotes from human literature, philosophy, and history. I have not yet begun to fight. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender. Give me liberty or give me death. Do not go gentle into that good night. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Hundreds of similar statements, all saying the same thing in different ways. Humans did not accept defeat. They did not bow to threats. When faced with impossible situations, they fought harder. This explains their behavior, Marakatha said slowly. They're not ignorant. They're stubborn to the point of self-destruction. There's more, the analyst said. They're children's stories. What about them? They tell their children stories about fighting monsters, about standing up to bullies, about heroes who face impossible odds. They teach defiance from birth. Marakatha felt cold. Are they a warrior race? No, that's the strange part. Most humans are not warriors. They're farmers, teachers, artists, scientists, but they all share this refusal to accept domination. It's cultural. It's in their very identity. She pulled up more data. Human religions, politics, social movements, all of them, despite their differences, shared common themes. Freedom, self-determination, resistance to tyranny. They've fought against empires before, she noted, reading historical records. The British Empire, the Roman Empire, the Mongol Empire. Sometimes they lost, but they always fought. And Chief, the analyst said quietly, look at what happened to those empires. Marakatha looked. The British Empire had collapsed. The Roman Empire had fallen. The Mongols had faded. All the great human empires had eventually crumbled, often because the people they conquered never stopped resisting. How many rebellions have they had? She asked. We stopped counting at 500 significant ones. That's just in the last 2,000 years. Marakatha stood and began pacing. Her mind raced through the implications. The Empire's standard procedure was to intimidate new species into submission. It worked because most species valued survival over pride. They saw the Empire's power and made the logical choice to surrender. But humans did not think logically, not about this. They valued freedom over survival. They would rather die than submit. What about their military? She asked. Current capabilities? The analyst brought up new files. Limited compared to ours. They have no ships that can match our warships. Their weapons are primitive, but their tactics are concerning. How so? They don't fight fair. They use guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, psychological operations. In their simulations, when facing a superior force, they don't try to win direct battles. They drag the conflict out, make it expensive, attack supply lines, target infrastructure. They make victory too costly to achieve. Sounds like they've thought about fighting us, Marakatha observed. They've thought about fighting everyone, the analyst corrected. Their military doctrine assumes they'll always be the underdog. They plan accordingly. Marakatha pulled up a human military manual. She read doctrine about insurgency, resistance, and asymmetric warfare. She read about strategies used by humans when fighting each other, how occupied populations made conquest unbearable, how small forces defeated large ones through patience and determination. We could still win, she said. We have overwhelming superiority. Yes, the analyst agreed. But Chief, look at the cost, he showed her projections. If the Empire invaded human space, they would win eventually, but it would take years, maybe decades. Every human colony would resist. Every human ship would fight to the last. The casualties on both sides would be enormous, and even after victory, the humans would never truly submit. The Empire would have to maintain a permanent occupation force. There would be constant rebellions, constant resistance. The cost in resources and lives would be staggering. All this for one primitive species? Marakatha wondered aloud. There's one more thing, the analyst said. Their technology is advancing rapidly, faster than any species we've recorded. They went from basic flight to space travel in less than 100 years. From their first computer to artificial intelligence in 50 years. They're not advanced now, but in a century, maybe two, Marikatha understood. If the Empire fought the humans now, it would be costly. If they waited, it might be impossible. We need to tell the Emperor, she said. What will you recommend? The analyst asked. Marikatha thought about the data. About a species that had nearly destroyed itself and chose to survive. About beings who valued freedom over safety, who taught their children to fight monsters, who refused to surrender even when surrender was the logical choice. I'll tell him the truth, she said. The humans aren't unimpressed because they're ignorant. They're unimpressed because they've faced worse than us and survived. They've stared into the abyss of extinction and decided to live anyway. Threats don't work on a species that has threatened itself with nuclear fire and chosen peace instead. She pulled up the final image, a photograph taken from human space. It showed Earth from orbit, a small blue world hanging in darkness. Beneath it was a quote from one of their poets. Though much is taken, much abides. That which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts made weak by time and fate, but strong in will. To strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Marikatha stared at those words for a long time. They will not yield, she said softly. No matter what we do, they will never yield. Emperor Vornthal read Marikatha's report 3 times. Each time he felt his certainty eroding like sand against water. The humans were not what they seemed. They were not ignorant primitives who failed to understand the Empire's might. They were something far more dangerous. They were beings who could not be intimidated. This cannot be allowed to stand, Advisor Ket Nara said, reading over his shoulder. If other species learned that the humans defied us without consequence, it could inspire rebellion. Vornthal knew she was right. The Empire's power rested on perception as much as reality. If one species could say no and survive, others might try the same. We must demonstrate consequences, he said, but carefully. We cannot afford a direct war with them. A proxy action, Ket Nara suggested, something that shows them the price of defiance, but gives us distance from the act. 3 days later, the plan was set in motion. New Haven was a small human colony on the edge of their explored space. 8,000 people lived there, mostly miners and their families. They extracted rare metals from the asteroid belt and dreamed of home. They had minimal defenses because they believed they were too far from civilization to be threatened. They were wrong. The pirate fleet that attacked them was not imperial. At least not officially. The ships bore no markings. The crews were mercenaries from a dozen species, and their orders came through enough intermediaries that nothing could be traced back to Zelthar Prime. But the Empire had arranged everything, funded everything, and watched everything through hidden drones. The plan was simple. The pirates would attack, overwhelm the colonists, and demand surrender. When the humans saw their situation was hopeless, they would call for help. The Empire would graciously offer protection in exchange for submission. The humans would have no choice but to accept. It should have worked. The attack came at local dawn. 6 pirate ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately opened fire on the colony's communications array. The message was clear: no one could call for help. The colonists were alone. Governor Chen, no relation to the Chen aboard the Wandering Spirit, was eating breakfast when the alarm sounded. She was 70 years old, a retired accountant who had come to New Haven to enjoy a quiet retirement. She looked at her security chief, a young man named Marcus who had 3 years of training and 0 combat experience. "What do we have?" she asked calmly. 6 ships, Marcus said, his voice shaking. "They've taken out our communications. They're demanding we surrender. What weapons do we have?" "Governor, we're a mining colony. We have construction equipment, some personal firearms, nothing that can fight warships." Governor Chen finished her coffee. "Then we'll use what we have. Sound the evacuation alarm. Get the children and elderly to the deep shelters. Everyone else, tell them to grab anything that can be used as a weapon. Governor, we should surrender. They'll kill us all." She looked at him with eyes that had seen Earth's own troubled history in museums and schools. "Marcus, do you know what my grandmother told me before she died? She survived the water wars in Africa. She said the moment you stop fighting is the moment you die. We might lose, but we'll lose on our feet." 20 minutes later, the pirates landed ground forces. They expected terrified civilians. They found something else. The miners had turned their industrial equipment into weapons. Drilling lasers became anti-personnel guns. Explosives meant for breaking rocks became improvised bombs. The cargo haulers became mobile barricades. And the people, ordinary men and women who had never been soldiers, fought with a ferocity that shocked their attackers. In the Imperial observation post, Commander Zethral watched in disbelief. "They're fighting," he said unnecessarily. "They have no chance of winning. And they're fighting." "They don't understand the situation," his second officer suggested, but Zethral was starting to suspect they understood perfectly. On New Haven, the battle raged for hours. The pirates had superior weapons and training, but the colonists knew the terrain. They used the mining tunnels to move unseen. They collapsed passages to trap enemy forces. They fought from prepared positions and fell back before they could be surrounded. Governor Chen coordinated from the command center, her tactical display showing losses mounting on both sides. Every red icon that blinked out was someone she knew. Someone's parent, spouse, child, but they kept fighting. In one mining tunnel, a grandmother named Wu held the line with 17 others, while children evacuated behind them. She had been a librarian on Earth. Now she fired a mining laser at enemy soldiers, each shot precise and measured. When one of her people fell, she did not falter. "My daughter is behind us," she said to no one in particular. "That's all that matters." The pirates fell back from that tunnel. They found easier targets, but there were no easy targets. A retired soldier named Jackson, who had come to New Haven to forget the wars, remembered everything. He organized the defense with cold efficiency, turning civilians into a fighting force. He did not lead from behind. He was on the front line, a rifle in his hands, calling out targets and encouragement. "They think we'll break," he shouted. "Show them what humans do when you corner us." The colonists showed them. By noon, the pirate commander realized his mistake. He had lost 40% of his force. The humans were still fighting. Every building was a fortress. Every tunnel was a death trap. The cost of victory was becoming unacceptable. He called for reinforcements, but reinforcements did not come. The Empire had planned for a quick victory, not a prolonged battle. They could not send obvious help without revealing their involvement. The pirate commander made a decision. He pulled his forces back to the ships and prepared to bombard the colony from orbit. If he could not take it intact, he would destroy it completely. Governor Chen watched the ships power up their weapons. She knew what was coming. She opened a channel on all frequencies, knowing the Empire was listening even though they could not respond. "This is Governor Chen of New Haven Colony. We are about to be destroyed by forces unknown. I want to make sure the record is clear. We did not surrender. We fought with everything we had. If you're listening, Earth, tell my daughter I love her. Tell her we stood. Tell her we did not kneel." She closed the channel and looked at her people. Some were wounded. All were exhausted, but they stood ready. "It's been an honor," she said. Then the sky lit up with new arrivals. 8 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their weapons already hot. They were not large by Imperial standards, but they moved with purpose and precision. The pirate ships immediately tried to flee. They did not make it. The human fleet destroyed 3 pirate vessels in the first minute. The others scattered, abandoning the battle. The human ships let them go and moved into protective orbit around New Haven. A transmission came through. Captain Maria Santos appeared on the screen. "Governor Chen, this is Captain Santos of the Wandering Spirit. We picked up your distress beacon before they destroyed your array. Couldn't get here faster, but we're here now. Are you all right?" Governor Chen started laughing. She could not help it. Tears ran down her face. "We're alive," she said. "We fought them. We actually fought them." "I know," Santos said gently. "We monitored the whole thing. You did good, Governor. You all did good. Medical ships landed to help the wounded. Supply ships brought food and material for repairs. And a construction ship began rebuilding the communications array." In orbit, Commander Zethral watched from his hidden observation post. He had seen everything. The Empire's plan had failed completely. The humans had not surrendered. They had fought against impossible odds, suffered terrible losses, and kept fighting. And then their fleet had arrived, quick and efficient, to protect their own. He sent a priority message to Emperor Vornthul. "The demonstration has failed. The humans cannot be taught through fear. I repeat, conventional intimidation methods will not work on this species." On the surface, Santos walked through the colony. She saw the damage, the bodies being carried away, the exhausted defenders sitting wherever they could. She found Governor Chen directing cleanup efforts, her hands covered in dirt and blood. "You should rest," Santos said. "There's too much to do," Chen replied. "There always is. Rest anyway. The governor finally sat down. Santos sat beside her. "They'll come back," Chen said. "Whoever sent those pirates. They'll try again." "Let them," Santos said. "We'll be ready." "And, Governor? I'm recommending New Haven for a full defensive grid. Proper weapons, shields, the works. Nobody gets to attack us without paying for it." Chen nodded. "We're really not going to submit to them, are we?" "The Empire?" "No," Santos said simply. "We're not. Even if it means war?" "Even then." Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, tired but genuine. "Good." Emperor Vornthal stood alone in his private chamber, staring at the reports. New Haven should have broken the humans. Instead, it had shown him something terrifying. The humans did not just refuse to submit. They would fight, bleed, and die rather than kneel. And they were not alone. The reports from intelligence showed increased activity in human space. More colonies being established. More ships being built. They were preparing for war not because they wanted it, but because they expected it. Worse, other species within the Empire were asking questions. If the humans could refuse, why could they not? The cracks were starting to show. He sent for Captain Santos. The request was unusual enough that it caused confusion throughout the imperial hierarchy. The Emperor did not negotiate with those who defied him. But Vornthal was beginning to understand that the old ways would not work with humans. He needed to try something different. The meeting was arranged on neutral ground, a small station at the border between human and imperial space. Vornthal came with minimal guard. Santos came alone. They met in a simple room with a window showing the stars between their territories. The Emperor had to bend to fit through the doorway. Santos had to look up to meet his gaze. Neither showed discomfort. "Thank you for coming," Vornthal said. The words felt strange. Emperors did not thank anyone. "You said it was important," Santos replied. She sat in one of the chairs without being invited. The Emperor noticed but said nothing. He sat across from her, the chair groaning under his crystalline weight. For a long moment they studied each other. "I want to understand," Vornthal finally said. "Why do you refuse us?" "We offer protection, resources, technology. We could make your people wealthy and safe. Why choose struggle instead?" Santos leaned back. "Can I tell you a story?" "If you wish." A long time ago on Earth, there was a country called Britain. They built an empire, ruled over millions of people all over the world. They were powerful, advanced, wealthy. They told the people they conquered that they were bringing civilization and order. Vornthal listened. But the people they ruled never stopped resisting. Indians, Africans, Americans, Irish. They fought for centuries to be free. Not because British rule was always cruel, though sometimes it was, but because being ruled by someone else, no matter how benevolent, meant losing who they were. "And these people won their freedom?" Vornthal asked. "Eventually, yes. The British Empire fell apart. Not because it was weak, but because the cost of holding on to people who wanted to be free became too high. You compare us to this failed empire? I'm saying that empires always fall," Santos said gently. "Not because they lack power, but because they're built on a flawed idea. That some people have the right to rule others without their consent." Vornthal felt anger rising but pushed it down. "We have ruled for 10,000 years. We have brought peace and order to countless worlds. And how many species fought you before they accepted that peace?" Santos asked. "How many rebelled? How many had to be crushed before they submitted?" The Emperor was silent. The answer was uncomfortable. Santos continued. "Your Majesty, I've seen your empire. It's impressive. You've built something incredible, but it's built on fear. Every species that joins you does so because the alternative is destruction. That's not peace. That's just absence of war." "Peace is peace," Vornthal said. "Is it? Your intelligence chief sent me some of your own records. 23 species went extinct under your protection. How many of them stopped having children because they had lost hope? How many just gave up on living because being alive without freedom was too painful?" Vornthal had no answer. Those species were classified as failures, weaknesses in their genetic or cultural makeup. He had never considered that the Empire itself might have been responsible. "We're not trying to destroy you," Santos said. "We're not trying to steal your territory or harm your people. We just want to exist on our own terms." "Is that really so threatening?" "Yes," Vornthal admitted. "Because if you can refuse, others will too. The Empire will fracture." "Then maybe it should," Santos said quietly. The Emperor stood abruptly. Santos remained seated, looking up at him calmly. "You would see our civilization fall?" he demanded. I would see it change, she corrected. Vornthal, you're afraid of losing control. I understand that. But control is an illusion. You can't hold people forever. Eventually they'll break free or break completely. Then what do you suggest? The question came out more desperately than he intended. Santos stood and walked to the window. We could be partners instead of subjects. Trade with us, share technology, let our people visit each other's worlds, be friends instead of master and servant. The Empire does not have friends. We have subjects and enemies. Then maybe it's time to have friends, Santos said. Your Majesty, humans are stubborn. We're difficult. We argue about everything and agree on nothing, but we're also loyal to those who treat us with respect. We could be your greatest allies if you just treat us as equals. Equals? The word tasted strange. Why not? We're different from you, but different doesn't mean lesser. We have things to offer. New perspectives, new ideas. And in return, you have knowledge and experience we could learn from. Vornthal moved to the window beside her. Together, they looked at the space between their territories. If I agree to this, he said slowly, it will change everything. Other species will demand the same treatment. Yes, Santos agreed. The Empire as it exists will end. Yes. And you think this is better? Santos turned to look at him. I think it's different. Maybe worse in some ways, maybe better in others. But it's honest. You won't have to threaten people to keep them loyal. They'll stay because they want to. Or they'll leave, Vornthal said. Or they'll leave, Santos acknowledged. And you'll have to accept that. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. He thought about 10,000 years of tradition, about the species who bowed before him, some willingly, some not, about the weight of maintaining an empire through fear. What would this partnership look like? He finally asked. Santos smiled. We'd figure it out together. That's kind of the point. No one dictates terms. We negotiate like adults. Adults, Vornthal repeated. The word implied equality. It implied respect. It implied everything he had been taught was wrong. I need time, he said. This is not a decision I can make quickly. Take all the time you need, Santos said. But while you're thinking, maybe consider this. When my ship wandered into your space, what were we doing? Mapping. Looking for resources. We were exploring, Santos corrected. Looking for new things, new places, new people to meet. That's what humans do. We wander, we explore. We make friends in the strangest places. She extended her hand. We could be friends, Your Majesty, if you're willing to try. Vornthal looked at the small hand offered to him. In 10,000 years, no one had offered him friendship as an equal. They offered submission, fear, worship, but never simple friendship. He reached out and carefully took her hand. His crystalline fingers dwarfed hers, but her grip was firm. I will consider your offer, he said. That's all I ask. 6 months later, the Treaty of New Haven was signed. It was named after the colony that had shown the Empire what humans were capable of. The treaty established humanity as an independent partner of the Zeltharian Empire, not a subject species. Trade routes were opened. Cultural exchanges began. And slowly, carefully, other species began to ask for the same arrangement. The Empire did not fall. It transformed. Some species chose to remain as subjects, comfortable with the old ways. Others negotiated new relationships. A few left entirely, and Vornthal learned to let them go. It was not easy. There were setbacks and arguments. Some Imperial commanders refused to accept the changes and had to be replaced. Some human colonies caused diplomatic incidents with their stubborn independence, but both sides kept trying. On the anniversary of the treaty, Vornthal and Santos met again at the same station. This time, others joined them. Representatives from a dozen species, some imperial, some human, some newly independent. This is chaos, Vornthal observed, watching the various delegates argue about trade regulations. This is democracy, Santos corrected with a grin. Messy, loud, and frustrating. But it works. I am not certain I like it. Give it time. You've had 10,000 years of one way. Maybe try another way for a while. Vornthal watched a Zeltharian merchant laughing with a human trader, making deals without any thought of submission or dominance. He watched species that had been enemies for centuries talking cautiously about cooperation. It was chaos. It was inefficient. It was nothing like the orderly empire he had ruled for so long, and perhaps he thought that was exactly the point. Captain Santos, he said, I have been thinking about your first day in my throne room. When you refused to kneel, I remember. You looked like you wanted to throw me into space. I did, he admitted. But now I wonder if you did us a favor. We had become so focused on being obeyed that we forgot why we built the Empire in the first place. Why did you build it? Vornthal thought back to the earliest days before he was born, when the first Zeltharians had reached for the stars. To find others. To not be alone in the universe. Well, Santos said, gesturing to the crowded room. You found us. All of us. We're just not what you expected. No, Vornthal agreed. You are not.